Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 730, March the 23rd, 2019, Saturday. Yes indeed, it is Saturday. Well, I'm sure every one of you know by now that the Mueller witch hunt is over. It is over. There will be no further indictments. And that would include sealed indictments. It is over. Yesterday, about 4:35, they delivered the report to Attorney General Barr. He says he's going to look at it over the weekend, and that he's going to decide on Monday exactly how to relate what's in the report to Congress and to the American people. First of all, what are we talking about here with the Mueller report? Well, the Mueller report is essentially pretty simple. When a special counsel finishes their investigation, what will happen now is that this report will be essentially a report on who the people were who were indicted and why. And also, there'll be people in there who were investigated but not indicted and the reason why. There will be no opinions, no recommendations, or anything like that. Anyone who believes that is living in a dream world. They don't understand. I've been through 4 or 5 special counsels and special prosecutors. And so I've seen this thing 4 or 5 times now. It's essentially a final report card of what the prosecutor found, who was indicted and why, who may have been investigated or who was investigated, and why they weren't charged. It's very likely, and in most cases, the Attorney General will not even discuss or bring up or bring into the public domain or even to the Congress individuals who were investigated but were not charged. His report will probably only deal with, Barr's report will probably, that he'll give to Congress or the public, only deal with the individuals who were charged, what they were charged for, and of course this investigation had to do with Russia meddling in our election and whether or not there were members of the Trump team involved in that. So you will likely get a report on the Russian meddling. Of course, 80%, remember, 80% of the people that Uncle Bob, the executioner, indicted were Russian bots who cannot even be identified and will never see a day in court. 80% of the people indicted by Uncle Bob were bots, Russian bots. They assumed they were Russian bots. Could have been Democratic Party operatives or working for the CIA or British intelligence. But for all practical matters, 80% of the people indicted by Uncle Bob, the executioner, were Russian bots who will never see a day in court. Everyone else was brought up on process crimes. And the only person who really faced any major, or the only 2 people that probably faced some fairly major jail time would be Manafort and Rick Gates. Flynn has yet to be sentenced, and I doubt that he'll serve a single day in jail. And by the time they get around to sentencing Flynn, we might know so much more about the other side of this investigation, which is in the process of going on right now, that Flynn may be cut completely loose and he may be filing a lawsuit against the government. Carter Page, nothing. Papadopoulos, he failed the memory test and he got, what, a week in jail. He had the guy over in England, got a couple weeks in jail. We don't know about Stone yet, and of course, Corsi has cut some sort of a deal. And that's the grand finale right there. Nada. Now, I guess this puts to bed another nasty rumor that's been going around for a couple years now, that Mueller is some sort of a white hat, and that there are thousands of sealed indictments, that Mueller has actually been secretly working behind the scenes to indict the real perps, and they're all going to Gitmo. Not true. There are no more indictments. In fact, I couldn't resist turning over to CNN right after I heard the news to see how they would respond. And of course, the only thing they could do at CNN was talk about, there could be sealed indictments. There still could be some sealed indictments. That's right, sealed indictments that have not come down yet. At which point they go to the reporter who's live on the scene somewhere, and which is Valerie Jarrett's daughter, by the way, reporting for CNN somewhere on location. And they go back to her and they ask her, yeah, what about sealed indictments? Is that still a possibility? At which point she looks at him and goes, oh, no. No, in fact, when all the reporters, we were all there, and several reporters did ask, about could there be sealed indictments that still have not been open yet. At which point they said, no. When we say there's no indictments, that means there's no indictments, including sealed indictments or any other indictments. It is over. At which point they're all like, but we still have the Southern District of New York. Yes, that's right, we still have the Southern District of New York. So then they spent the rest of their time, I watched about another 10 minutes of CNN with all their panelists there and all their so-called egghead experts. Yeah, we still have the Southern District of New York, and Mueller's probably kicked a lot of that stuff off to the Southern District, and there could still be some real trouble coming. Man, they can just not get off of it, man. They cannot get off of it. They're hooked up on the dopium of Trump-Russia collusion, which is a hoax. Not a word about the Rotten Reverend and fixing the election or being under investigation in Ukraine. Not a single word about that. Or on MSNBC. I looked at them as well. Now, on MSNBC, they've already flipped the script, dude. They didn't even spend... In fact, I don't even know if I even heard them comment on the Barr receiving the special counsel report. They were already on, Jared Kushner, he's got a lot of problems. He had a private email account. Yeah, that's right. Yes, and tell us more. Oh, yes, Jared had a private email account, and he was this what you done it sort of thing, sending out. Yes, he had a private email account. Everybody has private email accounts. Most people have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. What he didn't have was a private server network where he was flowing government documents and information, communicating with people in classified conversations, going onto a private server, unencrypted, unprotected, for at least 5 months. That's what he didn't do. That's what the Rotten Reverend Clinton did. And that's why I think she's going to be indicted. I do believe the Rotten Reverend Clinton will be indicted. Pick a crime, any crime. There's plenty to choose from. So, that is where we are. Now, what happens now? Well, obviously Uncle Bob can no longer, and Rodenstein can no longer really protect the evidence that is going to be used to put a lot of perps in jail. I'm thinking 2 to 3 dozen from the FBI and the DOJ and the intelligence community as well. It's also going to embarrass some folks over there across the pond. Because if anyone thinks that Trump is just going to walk away and let it all go, you're nuts. Trump is now going to come out with both barrels blazing every single day. And if he has not already ordered Barr to put together a team of prosecutors and investigators to investigate exactly what happened at the FBI and DOJ during 2016 to run a frame-up coup operation on him, I'm sure he will be doing that shortly. My guess is that has already happened. In fact, I'm thinking the reason why Barr was able to wrap this thing up so quick is because he probably sat down with Uncle Bob, looked at the information and all the evidence and said, Uncle Bob, you got a lot of problems. Because I've been looking at a lot of this stuff and, you took over this investigation. It was all based on this dossier and it's garbage. And they knew it was garbage. And so did you. My best advice to you, Uncle Bob, is to wrap it up. Wrap it up. And I think that that's exactly what happened. Now, does that mean I have 100% total confidence in Barr? No, not really. I think that Barr, basically, just like any other deep state bureaucrat, wants to calm the waters. He wants to make it all go away as best as possible. He doesn't really want to have to go after DOJ and FBI and CIA, people like that. That's not what he wants. He wanted to make Uncle Bob go away very quietly without causing any more problems, and he would like to push everything that the DOJ and the FBI did back into the corner and hope people forget about it. That's probably what Uncle Bob would, or AG Barr would like to do. Trump's not going to let that happen. And I can assure you that there's too many reporters, too many people like me and all of you who are following the story. We know exactly what happened. It was an attempted coup. And Uncle Bob was a part of it. And we're not going to stop looking at it, talking about it, reporting on it, digging into it, and pressing for someone to investigate it until we see justice. Trump and the country just had to endure 2 years of a complete anal cavity search. Now it's time for the other side to bend over and grab their ankles. For a little cavity search. And I think we're going to find a lot of shit. What do you think? Yes, Trump is going to come out with both barrels blazing. If he hasn't done so already, he will be doing shortly, telling Barr to get his team of prosecutors lined up and to start looking into exactly what happened in 2016, because there's overwhelming evidence already, more evidence out today, that they took this phony dossier paid for by the rotten Reverend Clinton and they used it to turn this entire thing inside out. They used it to get FISA warrants, to launch multiple investigations, to destroy lives of many people, turn the country inside out, and try to execute a coup against a president. You're not going to let something like that go. I think Barr understands that. I think Barr understands that he's not going to be able just to push this thing away. He's going to have to produce some heads. Let's not forget that Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz has also had his investigation going, and I expect he's been waiting for Uncle Bob to finish as well. So I'm thinking we're going to be getting Horowitz's report pretty shortly. Now, he was supposed to be working with Huber, so it's possible that Barr probably sat down with Horowitz, maybe with Huber. Huber was just in town meeting with Barr and some other people. So we can assume that there may have been a conversation with Barr probably telling Huber and Horowitz, hey, I've got my foot up Uncle Bob's ass, and he's going to be shutting this thing down very soon. And as soon as he does, I want you to move. I want you to move. Horowitz has been doing the investigation. Anything he needs that you haven't been able to get because of Uncle Bob, because remember, Horowitz was blocked by Rodenstein from getting certain things he wanted, certain witnesses he wanted to interview because of Uncle Bob's investigation. Now, Huckleberry Horowitz can interview those witnesses and look at that information and get the documents he needs. Huber will also have the same power that Uncle Bob had to look into these things, get the documents, interview the witnesses, convene grand juries. Believe me, there is no way that this thing is not, no way that we are not going to see something happen to those people who were behind the coup. It's just no way that can happen. You can't push something like that into the closet. It's too big. There's too much evidence already in the public domain proving what was done, and we all know what it was. It was a coup. Can't hide that, can't cover it up, can't push it away, can't make it go away. It's not going away. So, that is where things stand today. And I expect that the media and the left wing will move on to the next thing, which is Jared Kushner's private email account, or the Southern District of New York, where they think some great miracle is going to happen. But keep in mind, the Southern District of New York is still under the command of the head of the Department of Justice, and that's Barr. And if he sees a bunch of shenanigans going on there and some sort of a witch hunt or something going on, trying to retry, like Manafort, I think Manafort has a good chance of beating that case in the Southern District of New York. They're essentially going to try to try him on crimes he's already been tried on. You're not allowed to do that. You only be tried for a crime once. It's called double jeopardy. So, I don't think that that's going to go anywhere, and I think Trump is probably going to pardon Manafort. Probably right after the midterm, after he wins in 2020, I think the very first thing Trump will do is pardon Manafort. Now, let's get on to more news here. Fox News, and I believe this is Catherine Herridge, is reporting on some new text messages between Lisa Page and Andy McCabe. The messages came from a device owned by Lisa Page, which was likely turned over to Huckleberry Horowitz and Uncle Bob. The messages show that Stuart Evans Evans. Remember that name. We're going to be hearing a lot about it. Stuart Evans, who was the DOJ NSD Deputy Assistant, had doubts about the FBI source Christopher Steele. Just 9 days before the FISA warrant on Carter Page was requested, there was a battle with FBI DOJ officials against Stuart Evans. Evans had concerns about possible bias of the main source pivotal to the FISA application. That would be Christopher Steele. We also learned that the top brass at the FBI circulated 2 anti-Trump blog posts on lawfare shortly after Election Day, suggesting that Trump was a major security threat to the country. The article was likely written by Comey's close friend, Benjamin Witz. So, here we learn about this brave soul, Stuart Evans, the number 2 legal man at the DOJ NSD, who clearly was troubled by the credibility and the quality of the source, Christopher Steele. And we learn more from this story, which I didn't write this down, but I have observed the story on 2 or 3 different formats. And there's more to the story as well, which is that this period we're talking about, 9 days before the FISA warrant, there's a whole series of texts between Lisa Page and Peter's been stroking us. And they're talking about the fact that Stuart Evans is the guy who is standing in the way. And so it's decided that there's going to be a big meeting. And the person who's going to preside over that meeting is Silly Sally Yates. What they're going to do here is they're going to have an intervention. They're going to get all these high-level people, Sally Yates, people around her, other lawyers, FBI, DOJ people, in the room with Stuart Evans to bully him into backing down and supporting getting behind the FISA on Carter Page. That's what that meeting was all about. And Silly Sally was the one put in charge to go make sure that Mr. Evans changed his attitude in that meeting. That's what happened there. Silly Sally, get yourself a lawyer. You're going to need one. Because that was the pivotal meeting. That was the meeting when they finally got the last guy who was still standing up and going, wait, this guy, Christopher Steele, man, I'm looking at these 302s. I mean, there's a lot of problems with this, man. We better check this thing out before we do this. No, shut up, Stuart. Shut the F up and sit down. We're going after it. Got to destroy Trump. You know, and this is the best way to do it. We ain't got nothing on him. We got this guy Carter Page. We're going to go tell the FISA court that we have overwhelming evidence that this guy is colluding with the Russians and part of some sort of a plot. And that's exactly what they did. Mr. Evans is very likely to be a key witness. And I'm sure he has got a lot to say. Because he's not going to go to jail on this deal. He apparently was the one guy who had the stones to stand up to all these people. But they finally just either outranked him, pulled rank on him, or just, worked him over to the point where he finally realized he just had no choice but to go along and get along. There's no doubt that this guy probably has some hard feelings. He's not going to go to jail for these perps. He'll be a guy who would probably love to tell his story. I would say, if you're looking for someone to provide some really good inside information and good evidence, this would be the guy. Stuart Evans, remember that name. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about him. The FISA warrant assured the FISA court on numerous occasions that there were other independently corroborated sources that backed up Steele's claims. Oh boy. Oh boy. They told the FISA court on multiple occasions. Numerous occasions, it says. Numerous occasions, which means every time they went to get the warrant or anytime they need to back up anything on the warrant, probably also with the national security letters, they told the FISA court that they had other independently corroborated sources other than Christopher Steele. The next question would be obvious is, did the FISA court ask to see the evidence of that? And would they sign the sworn statement on that? And if so, who were these other sources? I can tell you who they were. The articles by David Korn and Mother Jones and by Isikoff and Yahoo. That's what they were talking about. And who was the source of those stories? Christopher Steele, same guy. Circular. It was all circular. They were using Christopher Steele as the only real source of anything, because that's all they had. And they just simply had him be the source for 3 or 4 or 5 other sources. But the end source was always Christopher Steele. That's all they had. Christopher Steele and the dirty dossier. Fake as hell. And they never told the FISA court at all. Not on any of the FISA warrant applications did they ever tell the FISA court that it was opposition research being paid for by the rotten Reverend Clinton, who was the one who planned, organized, directed, and controlled the entire operation. Oh, boy. Comey knew about it all. Brennan knew about it all. Clapper knew about it all. McCabe knew about it all. Strzok and Page knew about it all. Lynch knew about it all. Yates knew about it all. Obama knew about it all. And Hillary was running the show. Boom. A lot of people in a lot of trouble. Because Trump ain't letting it slide. Neither am I. So, I think we've turned a major corner now. And I think from this point forward, the first 2 years belong to Uncle Bob and the deep state. The next 2 years belong to Trump and all of us. That's right. The next 2 years belong to Trump and all of us. This is where we take care of the business. To expose the coup and hold the perps accountable. And yes, we are going to be meeting on that tarmac. We'll be seeing you, Mara, down in lovely North Carolina, on the tarmac. When the indictments come down, I'll be looking forward to cheering all of you and your drink of choice. Mine will likely be Mountain Dew. But swig or swill what you wish. Chug what you want. I don't give a damn. Smoke what you want. Drink what you want. Eat what you want. I don't care. We're going to celebrate on the tarmac. Now, let's get to some more news. It appears that based on Uncle Bob and the Hillary donor posse wrapping up their coup, that Adam Schiff now says he's going to subpoena Mueller. Man, this guy's an a-hole. It's customary at the end of any special counsel investigation for the special counsel to go to the usually the Senate Judiciary Committee, sometimes the House Judiciary Committee, but usually the Senate Judiciary Committee, and answer some questions about the investigation. But generally, he's not going to say anything that the Attorney General doesn't release in his report. And his report's not exactly the special counsel report. The only thing that Mueller is going to comment on is the people that were indicted and why. He may answer some questions about people who were not indicted or whatever, but mostly you don't get much out of the special counsel or the special prosecutor, but it is customary for them to sit down with Congress after they submit the report and after the AG puts the report out. It's fairly customary for this to happen. So the fact that Schiff's out there, yeah, well, I'm going to subpoena Mueller. Well, Adam Schiff is head of the House Intelligence Committee, and I'm pretty sure that Uncle Bob or the AG is probably going to tell Schiff, is like, look, I'm putting out the report. I got Bob's report. I'm putting out the summary for you and the public to all read. And it is customary for the special counsel to sit down in front of usually the Senate Judiciary Committee and take some questions about the investigation or whatever. And that's where That's where it's going to be, and that's where it's going to end. And you, Mr. Bug-Eyed Fool, find something else to do. That will go nowhere. More from General Counsel to the former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, the despicable James Comey. More from his personal counsel at the FBI, James Baker. And I expect we'll be getting his full testimony released shortly. But here's just some new things. Not even so much new things, some things we've suspected or heard, but now just kind of nailed down. Baker testified in 2018 that the FBI was aware that Fusion GPS was shopping the dossier to both media organizations, government officials, and anyone else that he could shop it to. He was apparently going all over Washington, D.C., trying to drop the dossier on anybody who would have it. And Baker says that the FBI was aware of all of it. He also says that David Corn was very anxious to provide him with the dossier. And he says the reason is because he's known David Corn for a long time, and that he's probably the highest level FBI official that Corn knew, so naturally Corn wanted to get it to him. And he said he was very anxious to do so. That's not really new news. I think we knew all that, but it's nice to have it doubly confirmed, I guess. But yes, I'm looking forward to James Baker, his testimony being fully released, unredacted, so we can see it, because there's a lot there. His story very much backs up what we learned from earlier, from Catherine Herridge's report about this Stuart Evans and his resistance to the Carter Page FISA warrant, because he too smelled a rat. One honest man can sometimes make all the difference. One guy is all you need. One guy to walk in the door and say, I just can't carry this with me any longer. I've been holding this in for a long time. I see where all this is going. I just want to clear my conscience. Here's everything I know. And there you go. Stuart Evans. Remember that name. Well, there's a Democratic organization in Illinois that has formed a tax-exempt organization to lobby for higher taxes in Illinois. Oh my goodness. There you go. That's a candidate for Dumbasses of the Week. You form a tax-exempt organization to lobby for higher taxes. That's not hypocritical, is it? This guy is a real piece of work. I really hope that this guy is the Democratic nominee, but it won't be. He has no chance. He might be stupider than Ocasio-Cortez. I'm talking about John Hickenlooper. So Hickenlooper is on CNN on one of these little town hall things where they're interviewing all these Democratic candidates in like a town hall format. Pocahontas or Chief Spreading Bull was on Sunday night, where they registered the lowest ratings of any show on TV that night, even lower than the Home Shopping Network. That's how few people care about what Chief Spreading Bull has to say. And by the way, I mean, let's face it, she essentially failed a test that's to find out what your genealogy is. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But it's much worse than that, because you would think that at any point in time in her life, regardless of what she had been told, Elizabeth Warren might have walked into her bathroom, looked into the mirror, and went, let's see. I'm fair-skinned, I have blonde hair and blue eyes. I think I'm an engine. What a dumbass! I've seen a lot of cowboy and engine movies. Have you ever seen a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned squall? I don't think so. All the squalls I saw had dark hair, dark eyes, and dark skin. Because they come from freaking Eskimos. who are basically Indians. What an idiot. So Hickenlooper is on this CNN show where they're featuring all the Democratic candidates in a town hall forum. And he explains how he took his mother to see Deep Throat when he was in college. Now, I don't know about you, but that just would never happen in my deal, okay? As soon as we walked toward the theater and either my mother or myself looked up at the marquee and saw playing tonight, Deep Throat, I'm pretty sure we said, wrong movie. I wouldn't go see Deep Throat. My mother would never go see Deep Throat. We certainly wouldn't view it together. I can assure you of that. That is sick. That's beyond sick. That's creepy, man. That is freaking creepy. Yeah. And this guy wants to be president of the United States. Right along with the other guy that eats dirt, serves his wife baby poop, and engages in poetry that, let's just say, is a little bit sick. These are the people who want to be the next president of the United States. That's why they have zero chance. Zero. Trump's going to win in a huge landslide. And his ultimate victory is going to be when he exacts revenge on the perps. Do you think Trump is the type of guy that's going to let these people try to take him down and then he's just going to walk away? I don't think so. Trump looks like to me like a guy that when you go after him and you miss, you know, there's an old saying, if you go for the king's head, you better not miss. And no one would that be more applicable to than Trump. He's exactly the type of king whose head you don't want to miss. And they missed it. Big time. Did you know that Ilhan Omar is married to her real brother? Not her half-brother, not her step-brother, not her wish-to-be brother. No, her actual blood brother. She is married to her freaking brother. Holy smoke. God knows what sort of offspring they'll produce. It'll probably be like the It's Alive baby. The It's Alive baby's probably coming. And we'll have all to blame on Ilhan Omar. Of course, we have a lot of Democrats coming out wanting a New Zealand-style gun ban that would include turn in your guns, Mr. and Mrs. America Feinstein. The rotten Reverend Clinton couldn't help but tweet out about it. Barbara Streisand. Kirsten Gillibrand, who also now has just put out a video of her doing a workout, which is pretty cringy. We have Bernie Sanders, $15 an hour, $15 an hour, and ban all guns. Now, he's from Vermont, in a state where they love guns. Now, if he was running for his Senate seat, he would not be talking at all about guns. He never does when he's running for a seat in Vermont. But because he's running for president, and he probably won't run for Senate again, he won't need to, because after he's done losing to probably the rotten Reverend Clinton again, after she cheats him again in 2020, he's going to turn around and sell his donors list. That's his nest egg. And once he sells his donors list for $10 to $20 million, he doesn't give a damn. Bernie ain't that stupid. Finally, Nigel Farage said that his new Brexit party is going to run candidates all across the spectrum. And I'm predicting he's going to get a lot of wins. Because as most of you know, have been keeping up with what's going on with Brexit. And of course, Mike G, one of our subs here, has been keeping us up on it. But I've been following up on it a lot. Don't have much time to go into it today. I've only got like a minute left. But essentially, the EU has given Theresa May another little less than 2 weeks to try to get her deal passed. And if she does, then they'll give him another couple of weeks to formally work that out so that they can leave the EU that way, which is not really leaving the EU at all. It still leaves them in the customs union, and they can't get out unless Europe says they can, and Europe never will allow that. So that's a deal that's not going to fly. It's already been voted down in a huge way 2 times before. Not only that, the Speaker of the House in the Parliament there in Great Britain said that you cannot bring the same bill up again in the same session, so she can't bring the same bill up. So the EU saying she needs to get her bill passed by next week, when in fact the Speaker and the Parliament just said you can't bring the bill back up. Looks like a March 29th hard Brexit to me.